I want you to stop whatever you're doing and listen, because what I'm about to reveal has the power to completely rewrite everything you think you know about making a man fall deeply, madly, obsessively for you. There's a woman I know. She's 47. No, she's not a runway model. She doesn't have the body of a 20-something. But let me tell you something, men half her age, smart, successful, dangerously attractive men are lining up for her time. Not one. Not two. A line. They crave her. They dream about her. They chase her like she's the last fire in a cold world. Why? Because she possesses a secret, not a gimmick, not a trick, but a rare, magnetic energy that makes her unforgettable. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what it is. If you've ever felt invisible, if you're done shrinking yourself just to be chosen, if you're ready to step into the kind of power that doesn't beg but draws him in like a spell he can't escape, then don't you dare scroll past this. Because this is where everything changes. Let me tell you about Sarah. 3 months ago, she was crying on my couch because her ex-husband had left her for a 25-year-old. She felt invisible, worthless, like her best years were behind her. But Sarah had fire in her belly, and she decided she wasn't going down without a fight. Fast forward to last week, I'm at a coffee shop, and I see Sarah sitting across from this absolutely stunning man. He's maybe 35, successful looking, and he's hanging on her every word like she's the most fascinating person he's ever met. His phone keeps buzzing, but he doesn't even glance at it. His entire world has shrunk down to just her. After he left, I rushed over to Sarah and demanded to know what happened. What she told me blew my mind, and it's exactly what I'm sharing with you today. Because what Sarah discovered aren't just dating tricks, they're psychological secrets that tap into something primal in a man's brain. Something that makes him think about you when he's supposed to be working, dream about you when he's sleeping, and miss you when you're not around. Point 1. She masters the art of strategic unavailability. Here's the truth that most women never hear loud enough. Being available 24/7 doesn't scream love. It whispers desperation. And here's the real shocker. The woman who's always there slowly becomes invisible, predictable, forgettable. But an older woman who truly understands her worth, she moves differently. She knows her time is not something to be handed out like flyers on a street corner. It's refined gold. Rare. Intentional. Sacred. She doesn't jump every time the phone buzzes. She doesn't bend herself backwards just to be nice. And most of all, she does not apologize for having a life. I watched Sarah live this truth in the most graceful way. David, the devastatingly handsome man from the coffee shop, asked her out to dinner on a Tuesday. And with the calmest voice and the softest smile, she said, "I'd love to, but I'm not free until Saturday." No over-explaining. No nervous giggling. Just a quiet boundary drawn with elegant confidence. And guess what? He spent the next 4 days obsessing over her. He later confessed he couldn't stop wondering, what is she doing that's more important than me? And that thought? It didn't repel him. It lit him on fire. That curiosity became fascination. That fascination became desire. That desire became deep, aching craving. But here's the secret sauce that separates real women from amateurs. Sarah wasn't playing games. She was living fully. She was sculpting in her art class, laughing with friends over wine, walking shelter dogs, reading under golden sunsets. Her life was rich. Her world didn't pause for his presence. And that is magnetic. When you're selectively unavailable, you're not being cold. You're being rare. You're not punishing him, you're protecting your peace. You're not making him chase, you're reminding him. Access to me is a privilege, not a guarantee. And listen carefully, because this matters. Men are biologically wired to value what they must earn. They don't worship what's handed to them. They treasure what they had to wait for. So next time you think being always there will win his heart, remember this. A woman with a full life doesn't need to chase attention. She commands it. Point 2. She speaks his language of respect. This one might shake you because it goes against almost everything the modern dating world screams at us. See, The older woman who knows how to captivate a man's soul for life understands the truth most overlook. Men crave respect the way lungs crave air. Not just love, not just attraction, but deep, unshakable admiration. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is about playing small or being submissive, pause. Because it's not about making yourself less. It's about seeing him more clearly. Not through the lens of competition, but through the lens of insight. Wisdom. Feminine power. Sarah shared something with me once that hit like lightning. She and David were having a quiet dinner. He was venting about a high-stress client situation. And instead of hijacking the conversation or offering advice, she just leaned in and said, "The way you handled that situation? That took strength. The calm you held under pressure, that's rare. I admire that." That one sentence rewired something in him. He told her later it was the first time in years he felt seen. Not just as a date or a paycheck, but as a man worth something more. You want to know the truth? When you speak to a man with genuine respect, you awaken what psychologists call his hero instinct. That primal need to feel competent, valued, strong. You don't have to puff him up or play games. You just reflect back to him the parts of himself he forgets he possesses. But here's the non-negotiable part: it must be real. Men can smell hollow praise the way wolves smell fear. So don't fake it. Don't flatter. Feel. Observe. Speak what's real. Admire how he treats strangers. How he talks about his dreams. How he shows up when it's inconvenient. Because when your admiration is honest and rooted in truth, it doesn't just touch his ego, it carves a space in his soul. And trust me, that is the space no woman before you ever occupied. So let the world scream about being cold, aloof, and unbothered. You'll win hearts with something more timeless: soul-deep respect. Point 3. She creates emotional safety through vulnerability. This is where older women hold a quiet, devastating power younger women rarely understand. Not in their looks, not in their style, but in their unapologetic authenticity. See, we've lived long enough to know that perfection is a fantasy sold by fear and bought by the insecure. We don't chase it. We know that real connection doesn't bloom in polished silence. It blossoms in the raw, unfiltered truths we dare to reveal. An older woman, the kind who haunts a man's memory for life, isn't performing. She's not playing the cool girl who swallows her pain to stay desirable. She's not curating her emotions to earn validation. She's real. And real is unforgettable. I'll tell you something Sarah told me. It was her third date with David. Over dinner, beneath soft lights and slower breaths, she looked him in the eye and said, "After my divorce, I was afraid I'd forgotten how to trust someone with my feelings." She didn't unleash a tidal wave of trauma. She didn't make it about her past. She just opened a door and stood in it unguarded. "And David?" He leaned in, gently took her hand, and said, "Thank you for trusting me with that." That moment? That's the one he'll never forget. Because in that moment, she wasn't just a date. She became the woman who let him see her soul. And most men walk this earth starving for that kind of truth. Here's the deep psychology at play. When you show healthy vulnerability, you're not being weak, you're inviting strength. You're saying, "I trust you with my truth." And when a man feels trusted, not tested, not judged, not handled, he opens up in return. And that, darling, is when emotional intimacy takes root. That's what most younger women miss because they're too busy being impressive instead of being real. Too busy trying not to be too much or too emotional instead of letting their truth breathe. But hear this loud and clear. Vulnerability is not emotional dumping. It's not trauma on display. It's the sacred art of showing your humanness in careful, courageous doses. It's saying, "I'm nervous about this pitch," instead of, "I never let anything shake me." It's saying, "I sometimes feel lonely at night," instead of, "I'm totally fine on my own." Because when you reveal a crack in the armor, you allow him to take his off too. And in that rare, sacred space where two people stop performing and start being, that's where real love breathes. So if you want to live in a man's heart long after the world forgets your name, don't be perfect. Be honest. Be soft. Be bold enough to be seen. That's the kind of woman no man forgets. Not ever. Point 4. She maintains her own identity and passions. Here's something that will shake you to your core. The older woman who becomes unforgettable never dissolves into the shape of a man's desires. She doesn't shrink to fit his world. She expands within her own. She doesn't become his echo, she remains her own voice, clear, wild, and unwavering. I remember Sarah sharing something intimate with me once. She'd been seeing David for a few weeks. One evening over dinner, she started talking about her pottery classes. Not to impress him. Not to bond. Just because it lit her soul on fire. She spoke about the raw feel of clay between her fingers, the rhythm of the wheel spinning beneath her palms, the sacred silence of creation. Her eyes sparkled with the kind of joy you don't fake. The kind that only comes when you're connected to something deeper than romance yourself. And David? He was completely transfixed. Not because he gave a damn about pottery, but because he was witnessing a woman alive in her element. A woman who hadn't given up her fire to sit pretty beside a man. He told her later, "Watching you talk about your art, it felt like sunlight was pouring out of you. Let me make this crystal clear. Men don't fall for women who orbit their lives like moons. They fall for women who blaze like suns, burning with purpose, radiating with self-devotion, impossible to ignore." Here's the trap so many women fall into. They meet a man and abandon themselves. They cancel girls' nights. Drop the book club. Put down the paintbrush. They trade their passions for proximity and think that's love. It's not. It's erasure. The magnetic older woman? She knows better. She doesn't ask for space, she occupies it. She doesn't skip her Tuesday night art class. She lets him know she's busy creating beauty, and if he's lucky, he might be invited to witness it. Because when you stay rooted in your own joy, your own rhythm, your own sacred rituals, you remain captivating. You become the woman with a story in her soul, light in her eyes, and a life he longs to be part of, not the life he thinks he owns. And paradoxically, that's what pulls him closer. Not because you need him, but because you are whole with or without him. That's not just attractive. That's irresistible. Point 5. She masters the art of playful challenge. This right here is where older women hold the kind of power that makes them unforgettable. It's not in the way she looks, though she carries herself like a woman who knows she's magnetic. It's in how she responds with that rare, elegant confidence younger women are still trying to grow into. Let me tell you what Sarah did, because it was nothing short of masterful. She and David were having dinner, glass of red wine in hand, when he joked, "All women are emotional shoppers." Most women? They would have laughed awkwardly or rolled their eyes, maybe even snapped back. But Sarah? She looked him straight in the eye, smirked, and said, "Oh really? Because I recall a certain someone dropping thousands on a motorcycle last month. Should I be concerned about your emotional stability?" She said it with mischief in her voice and fire in her eyes. No drama. No defensiveness. Just that bold, playful spark that only comes from deep self-security. And David? He lost it. Laughed so hard he nearly choked on his drink. He later admitted most women either go along to get along, or they get offended. But Sarah? She met him toe to toe. And in doing so she turned his spark of attraction into a full-blown flame. Here's the real psychology: men are natural competitors. They're magnetically drawn to women who can mentally spar with them, not with bitterness, but with wit. With feminine fire. With the kind of sharp charm that says, "I see you. I hear you. But I'm not here to flatter your ego, I'm here to keep it interesting." See, there's a world of difference between attacking and challenging. A woman who attacks, she's reacting from fear. But a woman who playfully challenges, she's responding from power. She knows the game. She knows how to throw a jab with a smile, how to call him out without cutting him down. She's not trying to prove her worth, she's already rooted in it. She'll look at him and say, "I admire your confidence, especially when you're so adorably wrong." And he won't feel criticized, he'll feel stimulated, intrigued, pulled in. This is what makes a woman unforgettable. She's not just soft, she's strong. She's not just kind, she's clever. And she brings soul to the table, not just skin. When a man meets a woman like this, he knows instantly. He's not dealing with a girl who needs validation, he's met a woman who's done the work, who knows who she is, and who refuses to shrink to fit anyone's fragile ego. And in that moment, he realizes life with her would never be predictable, never be boring, and never, ever be safe in the best possible way. Because she's the kind of woman who keeps him on his toes, while making him feel more seen, more challenged, and more alive than he's ever been. Point 6. She knows how to leave him wanting more. The final secret of a woman who lingers in a man's soul long after she's gone. She knows exactly when to leave the party while the music's still playing and the room is still full of laughter. She doesn't overstay. She exits on a high note, leaving the air electric with what could have been. Sarah had mastered this silent, devastating art. One evening, on an early date with David, they were sharing one of those rare nights where everything clicks. The laughter, the glances, the wine, the energy between them, it was magnetic. He leaned in, eyes dancing, and said, "Let's grab another drink somewhere else." She glanced at her watch, smiled slowly, and replied, "I'd love nothing more, but I have an early morning. I'd rather end this on a beautiful note than drag it into exhaustion." He was floored. Not offended, enchanted. This wasn't desperation disguised as availability. This was a woman who honored herself. David wasn't used to this. He was used to women who would sacrifice their next day just to squeeze more time with him. But Sarah? Sarah protected her peace. She didn't bend her world to orbit his. And do you know what happened next? He couldn't stop thinking about her. He replayed her laugh in his mind. He woke up wondering what she was doing, and why she felt so untouchable. He texted her the next morning, saying he hadn't been able to stop thinking about their night, and he couldn't wait to see her again. Here's the truth most women never learn. Desire isn't fed by closeness, it's ignited by absence. It's the pause that builds the craving. It's the unanswered question that keeps the mind spinning. It's the space she creates that pulls him closer. An unforgettable woman understands this. She doesn't rush to fill the silence or cling to every second. She lets him miss her. She lets him ache a little. She lets anticipation do what no amount of presence ever could. This isn't about playing games. It's about power. It's about grace. It's about knowing that true magnetism doesn't beg, it beckons. So, if you want to haunt a man's thoughts, leave him while the spark is still burning. Don't extinguish it with overexposure. Make him feel the absence of your presence like a ghost that brushes past his skin in the middle of the night. Point 7. She communicates like a grown woman. This is why she stays in his mind forever. She speaks like a queen, not a girl. Here's something most younger women are still learning, but older women have already mastered the sacred art of grown-up communication. No emotional guessing games. No cryptic silences hoping he'll decode your pain. And absolutely no childish meltdowns when something doesn't go your way. The woman who leaves a lasting imprint on a man's soul. She doesn't scream for attention, she commands it with calm, self-assured clarity. She speaks like a woman who knows her worth. Sarah, for example, didn't explode when David showed up 30 minutes late for their dinner date without even a text. She didn't slam her fork down, roll her eyes, or retreat into icy silence. No. She looked him in the eye and said gracefully but firmly, "I'm glad you made it. But when we agree on a time, and you don't show or message, it makes me feel like my time isn't valued. I'm not upset, I just need clear communication going forward. That matters to me. No drama. No desperation. Just emotional precision, backed by self-respect." And guess what? David didn't just apologize, he admired her for it. He saw a woman who wasn't afraid to express her standards, who wouldn't twist herself into knots just to keep the peace. A woman who wasn't afraid of confrontation because she knew how to do it right. That kind of calm, unapologetic truth-telling? That's not just sexy, it's unforgettable. Men may chase beauty, but they stay for peace. They crave that rare woman who doesn't weaponize emotion or shut down when things get tough. She doesn't manipulate, she negotiates. She doesn't demand respect, she embodies it. An older woman knows that love built on guessing games is fragile. She communicates like a woman who's already been through the fire and came out softer, wiser, and crystal clear about what she needs. She doesn't cry to be understood, she speaks with clarity so there's no confusion. She doesn't play the victim, she owns her feelings and invites mature dialogue. That kind of emotional poise, it's magnetic. It's rare. And it makes her impossible to forget. So if you ever wondered why certain women haunt a man's mind long after the relationship ends, it's not just their beauty, or charm, or wit. It's the way they make a man feel seen, heard, and respected without ever losing their own power. She's not loud. She's not needy. She's not performative. She's simply clear. And in a world full of emotional noise, her clarity is a kind of quiet luxury he can't help but crave. Because when a woman leaves at her peak, she doesn't leave him behind. She leaves him wanting more. And darling, that's where your power lives. Point 8. She understands the power of physical presence. This has never been about having the perfect body or freezing yourself in time at 25. The kind of woman who lingers in a man's thoughts long after she's left the room knows something most don't. True sensuality isn't about youth. It's about presence. Power. Poise. Sarah showed me this in the rawest, most honest way. After her divorce, she spent months dissecting herself in the mirror, pinching skin, analyzing lines, wishing her reflection would rewind a decade. But eventually, she had a revelation that changed everything. Her constant self-criticism was louder and far more repelling than any wrinkle ever could be. So she stopped trying to disappear into invisibility. She started walking with intention, holding eye contact like she had nothing to prove. She touched people when she spoke to them, laughed from her chest, and dressed in a way that made her feel powerful, not to shrink herself into someone else's ideal. And do you know what David said to her? He told her the first thing he noticed wasn't her body. It was her presence. She walked in and owned the room without saying a word. She radiated something magnetic, not because she was trying, but because she was comfortable in her own skin. And that, my friend, is rare. Let's get honest for a second. Confidence is the most dangerous aphrodisiac. It doesn't come from the mirror, it comes from within. It's in the way you enter a room like you have every right to be there. It's in the way you let your hand linger on his arm mid-conversation. It's in the way you look him in the eye, not to impress, but to connect. An older woman who owns her power doesn't compete with younger women. She doesn't need to. Why? Because her power comes from depth, not decoration. She's not trying to fit into anyone's fantasy, she is the reality most men never saw coming. She understands something few do. Men are visual, yes, but they're utterly undone by energy. And when you carry the energy of a woman who refuses to apologize for her existence, who takes up space with grace, who speaks with fire and softness in the same breath, you become unforgettable. Not because of how you look, but because of how you make him feel. That's what it means to be truly sensual. It's not about skin. It's about soul. Point 9. She creates shared adventures and memories. The older woman who becomes unforgettable doesn't just pass through a man's life, she imprints herself into his story. She's not merely a presence in his present, she becomes a vivid chapter in his past, a haunting echo in his memories, and a quiet pull in his future. Why? Because she understands something younger women often overlook. A relationship isn't built in the big declarations. It's sculpted in the details, etched in the silent, tender moments, cemented in the experiences that burn themselves into the soul. Sarah is the kind of woman who lives with intentionality. She doesn't just show up for another mindless dinner and a movie, she curates experiences that stir emotion, awaken nostalgia, and deepen intimacy. She'll say something like, "There's a vintage car show this weekend. You once told me how your dad used to take you to those when you were a kid. Want to make a new memory? See the difference?" She listens. She remembers. She connects the dots. She doesn't just spend time with a man, she builds time with him. And when the moment presents itself, when the golden light of the sunset pours across the road, she'll be the one who says, "Let's pull over." Not for the picture, but for the feeling, for the memory. She's the one who'll hear the street musician playing a song from another era and pull him into a slow, unexpected dance right there on the sidewalk, people watching, wind brushing her hair, the moment becoming immortal. These are the kinds of memories that outlive the relationship. That perfume she wore? That song on the radio? That one spot overlooking the water? Years from now, they'll still whisper her name in his mind. Because she wasn't passive in their story. She was the co-creator, the choreographer of their emotional symphony. She'll turn the mundane into magic, suggesting they cook dinner together, and ending up in a playful, flour-covered food fight that leaves them laughing until midnight. She'll pack a picnic, drag him to the hilltop, and make him feel like the world paused just for them. She surprises him not to impress but to express. To say, "I see you. I want to know you. I want to create something beautiful with you." That's the power of an older woman who knows who she is. She doesn't wait to be entertained. She creates the experience. She doesn't ask for connection. She weaves it slowly, deliberately, like a thread binding two lives into one beautiful memory quilt. And that's why he'll never forget her. Not because she chased him. Not because she made herself smaller to fit into his world. But because she brought him into hers vibrant, rich, soulful, and made him feel something rare. She doesn't just occupy space in his mind. She owns real estate in his soul. Point 10. She loves without losing herself. The most unforgettable trait of an older woman, the one that anchors her forever in a man's memory, is also the rarest and most refined. She loves with depth, but never at the expense of herself. This is not the love of fairy tales or teenage daydreams. This is the kind of love that comes from scars that have healed, wisdom earned through heartache, and years of learning the sacred distinction between attachment and affection, between needing someone and choosing them. This is where maturity becomes a force of nature. An older woman no longer confuses intensity with intimacy. She no longer believes that love requires losing herself to keep someone else. She's lived enough life to know, the moment you betray your own soul to preserve a relationship, you've already lost both. Sarah put it beautifully. I love David deeply, but I don't need him to make me whole. I was complete before him, and I'll be complete if he walks away. That's not a warning, it's a gift. Because when a man knows you're not clinging to him for your identity, he meets a version of you that's grounded, radiant, and real. This kind of woman is magnetic not because she begs for attention, but because she doesn't. She offers love freely, but never as currency for validation. She supports, but never shrinks. She nurtures, but never self-abandons. And this calm, unwavering sense of self? It creates a gravitational pull most men have never experienced before. She doesn't drop her dreams at the first sign of romance. She doesn't isolate herself from her friendships. She doesn't dim her light so he can feel bright. She invites him not to rescue her but to walk beside her in a life that's already vibrant and meaningful. And here's the paradox. The less you need a man to choose you, the more freely and passionately he does. When you're not grasping, he feels safe to reach for you. When you're not trying to complete him, he feels more complete with you. Because real love doesn't cling. It expands. And that expansion, that fierce yet tender devotion born from inner wholeness, is what makes an older woman unforgettable. She doesn't fill an empty space in his life. She makes the space richer, deeper, more alive. She becomes irreplaceable not because she demands it, but because she never asks to be his world. She simply shows him how breathtaking life can be when he chooses to share hers. Ladies, here's what I need you to understand. Age is not your enemy, it's your secret weapon. While younger women are still figuring out who they are, you have the confidence, wisdom, and emotional intelligence to create the kind of connection that most people only dream of. You don't need to compete with 20-somethings because you're not playing the same game. You're playing a completely different sport, and you have all the advantages. Your life experience has taught you what really matters. Your confidence comes from surviving challenges and coming out stronger. Your emotional maturity allows you to love deeply without losing yourself. Your wisdom helps you see through games and superficiality to connect with what's real. The woman who does these 10 things doesn't just capture a man's attention, she captures his imagination, his respect, and his heart. She becomes the standard by which he measures every other woman. She becomes the one who got away, even if she never leaves. Remember Sarah? 6 months later, David proposed. Not because she was perfect, but because she was perfectly herself. Not because she was young, but because she was wise. Not because she needed him, but because she chose him. Start with just one of these qualities and master it completely before moving on to the next. Don't try to transform yourself overnight. Instead, choose the one that resonates most with you. Maybe it's maintaining your own passions, or learning to communicate more directly, or creating more memorable experiences. Focus on that one thing until it becomes natural, then add another. If this video opened your eyes to the incredible power you already possess, I need you to hit that like button and let me know in the comments which of these qualities you're most excited to develop. And if you want more insights into the psychology of attraction and relationship dynamics, subscribe and ring that notification bell, because I'm here to help you become the woman who doesn't just find love but keeps it forever. Remember, gorgeous, you're not too old for love, you're exactly the right age for the right kind of love. Now go out there and show the world what a confident, wise, irresistible woman looks like.